Lari, Nambo, and Chasan, some dish delay, Tanzo Losabalian, Dick, Anzukian, Dick Chini, Nambo go to Ayobadi, and to go Yabushis and Chasan dish delays.
First of all, I just want to say Happy New Year to everyone. It's the Tibetan New Year recently, and it's also the start of our New Year of Dharma teachings. So first of all, I want to say how pleased and how happy I am that I've returned from India and I'm with all my Dharma friends again. And then we now have the fortune to start again our teachings for this year, with tonight being our very first weekend class.
So we're going
to start tonight with the text Praise for Dependent Arising, which was written by the incomparable master Geshe Rinpoche. So Geshe Rinpoche, or Lama Tsongkhapa, is included amongst a select group of the most esteemed or the most famous of the many accomplished Tibetan masters. And he turned out to be the founder of the Golok tradition. So that is a text, the Praise for Dependent Arising, that we're going to start with tonight.
And Chizun Jembeya, Shiesi, and Jeremchi Chizun Jembeya, Shiesi, and Giti, and Jewish, the Gechazan, once a mid and Miteva Nash in Chizun Jembelia, and Jewish, and the Gane, Doctor Hamo, the Chizun Jembeya, and she, and Induction and Jembeya Maganaji, and the Nijig, Tersam Jen, and Yamlin, Tarchimba Jetigan, Lama Bear Masiki. Gerachimbo Shidirwa. Lama Gerachimbo. Jermuche.
From a very young age, Lama Tsongkhapa puts great energy into studying and receiving many teachings and studying those teachings to try and come to a precise and profound understanding of the various points of the Dharma. And he studied with many teachers, eventually coming to one called Lama Umapa. And so his name Umapa means middle way, and this is what he studied with Lama Umapa. He studied the teachings on the middle way. And as he came to a greater understanding and he purified further and accumulated further, Lama Tsongkhapa came to have visions of Manjushri. And these visions were as clear as we see each other right now. And not only were they visions of Manjushri, but Lama Tsongkhapa was able to engage in conversation with him. And so in particular, he would ask him questions about the subtle points and the points that he was having difficulty coming to a correct understanding. And through this process, then, he eventually came to realize emptiness and become one of the great or the most famous and accomplished of lamas of the Tibetan tradition. And as he studied further and further and engaged in not only a profound daily meditation practice, but then also into a concentrated period of retreat where he came to even a greater profound understanding of the various topics of the Dharma. And with such a basis of knowledge and realization based on that knowledge, he composed a great number of texts. It was actually 18 volumes of texts that Geshe Rinpoche composed.
지난 Geshe Rinpoche 송 나는 도당아 니가 안 돼 냠는 거지야다 안 가가 냠는 거지야 되네 창라 마노와 근데 차상와 지금 네 동안이기 때문에 냠는 제기 아니 도당아 니가 냠는 제기 창라 마노와 창마 배 창와다 마노와 근데 되니기 냠는 제 여바데 Geshe Rinpoche 근데 송나야 여바데.
And these texts weren't, because of the vastness of his study and the profundity of his realizations, Geshe Rinpoche didn't just compose on one topic of speciality, but rather he composed across the topics of both Sutra and Tantra. And moreover, his texts were pure and unmistaken. And these texts then were not just theoretical, but were the basis for not just theoretical understanding, but also for practice. In other words, to put the meaning of the texts into practice. Here we've been speaking now about the qualities of, or some of the qualities of the composer of our text. And this text actually serves a similar purpose in that the text is a praise to the qualities of the Buddha. So we're praising now the qualities of Lama Tsongkhapa, but the text we're going to study, in this, he praises the qualities of the Buddha. So in your text you can see the full title. In brief we say praise for dependent arising, but it's a praise to Buddha Shakyamuni for having composed or for having taught dependent arising. And so this praise to the Buddha is for the specific quality of having taught dependent arising.
Then you're on you do sit there at the Yorwa, and you're on share what dancing do say, and it's Michilia, there is now a mitigi Keshu, and then you judge during Dangurmado, and then my Jew during Daskaya Marwa. Just I know the Mikiman out there, oh, Miss Sembasambo or Seata, or Mia or said to that, or Koshia what Tangre said, or Kochamia what Tragre said, and Kolea will legis, and the need turning as with Dunga Dangorwa. Miti and the Kochibi Leraya Ligis and Donataya in Yorwada.
In society, we also praise people for their good qualities. But being ordinary people, we tend to praise each other about very ordinary things. Maybe about someone's particular skill, such as being able to dance well or sing beautifully, or maybe they have a great talent in their work, or about qualities of their personality, such as being kind-hearted. So these are the kinds of qualities that we as ordinary people tend to praise each other about.
지난다 상주 좀는 데라 떼버부에게 인데나네 상지이 아니 꾸이 연데라 박메 바셔로고 상지 꾸리야 아니 지 꾸이 연데는 꾸 상지 꾸수다 되네기 에 떼버부에 하래 아니 상지기 아니 진비 냠렌다 파신 주게 냠렌디게 야고도 세다 아니 냠 데이터네 떼버부에 하래 아니 야 상지래 연데 아니 잠바다 제와 냠렌 뱀마스 야고레샤 떼버부에 여러와다 지난 여러데 Geshe Rinpoche 상유 좀 된데 잠재야 본념 빼야고도 세다 되네 전에 또 보여 말 그래 다들 가서 보고선 상기기 된지기 남샤 빼 마서 야고시 켄샤스 지산 빼 마시기 야고 켄제 마빼 마서 야고 켄샤스 된지기 남샤 켄샤스 니톤에 된지기 남샤 켄비기 된제들라 된제 참모 rakwa다 참모 망부여 봐 지산 된제 차신 차와 차상 지다와 신도 간데 쉬어베네 원숨도 켄샤 선 디페마세 연데 빼야고리 선 디톤에 야 되고 부야 되지래.
But when one comes to praise a being such as a Buddha, a being that with all good qualities developed to the state of perfection, to the state where they are fully and completely developed, then of course there are immeasurable qualities that one can praise such a being about. In terms of our historical Buddha, there are many physical characteristics that he can be praised for. He can be also praised for his practices or the six perfections, or the qualities of practices such as generosity within his continuum, etc., as well as the other mental qualities such as love and compassion. But despite all of these immeasurable qualities, none of these are what Geshe Rinpoche is specifically praising the Buddha for here. Rather, he's praising him specifically for the presentation that he gave on dependence arising. Because the topic of dependence arising has many levels, starting from coarse levels, going down to subtler and very subtle levels. And all of these, the Buddha came to know unmistakably. And with this unmistaken realization, he then propounded or taught dependence arising. So it's for this quality in particular that Geshe Rinpoche is praising Buddha Shakyamuni for.
ane tende de ba so tende yu ko ne sang yu jum de je rim chi gi ane sang yu jum ne de la tende khem bi ko ne ya bu re sha sin de ba za be ji gi chen de le tende de ba si ko re.
So this, just to mention again, then the text that we're looking at, the name in brief, is Praise for Dependent Arising. And as you have there before you, the name in full is the essence of eloquent speech, a praise to the unsurpassed teacher, the Buddha Bhagavan, for teaching the profound through dependent arising. And that's what we're going to be looking at.
친연지에는 당보 공로하고 전 말도 안 냠는지에다 타만 가지고 개와서야 돼 개와고 와서야 돼 근데 토다 발숨스기로와 지나다 디링한 저기 땡데 되게 친연지에게 로디기 토네래 로지기에는 냠는 가지고 친연지에 당보 차고래 다 땡데 되버디 친연지에다 당보 차고로와 디네 장가지고 공로들이야 마저 참마네 제가 심지어 탐지기 된다래야 심지어 탐지 dunga jawada simje digi tuye tondala ane digi tukudu chisa simje dunga jawada digi dembade ngi chigi tienzangi sanje simje tamji do sanje ko ba thoba sho sembike jaju sim samda da chisa jene sanje ko ba thoyala ane nyamnen je ma do thugo ma chisa dienzangi tendigi tebege ni ba chinyin je nyamnen je jang joge ane sanje ko ba gyo nyuwa thoba jigi sembike di dondala 심지어 탐지기도 산지고방 토익이 된다라 안 된대도 받으시니 ningi 유선비게 아니 경화진에 두스군을 해야 당하이네 아니 이 심지 두스치는 아주 군을 제거하되 안 예치 못 제거래.
You all have some experience in the Buddha Dharma, so you know that every activity that one does, one should start this with setting a virtuous motivation, and then one engages in the practice or the activity. And then the third aspect is that afterwards one should dedicate. Well, tonight is our first class of this text, which we'll be looking at probably for this entire year. And so, being the first class, it's important that we set a strong and stable motivation, not just for our class tonight, but to take us through the entire practice section of the motivation, practice, and dedicate. And so, we need to establish a strong motivation tonight. So the motivation that I've set, and that I'd encourage you to set as well, is to set the motivation of bodhicitta, a motivation that recognizes that each and every sentient being, we have a close and personal connection with them, and that all of them, just like us, want to experience only happiness and want to be completely free of all forms of suffering, no matter how slight. And in order to be able to lead all beings to such a state, we ourselves have to achieve such a state of enlightenment, arise as a Buddha, develop the qualities of a Buddha. And in order to achieve this goal of Buddhahood for the sake of others, one has to engage in the practices of a bodhisattva. To generate this mind of bodhicitta, for the sake of others, to strive for Buddhahood, and then commit to engaging the practices of a bodhisattva. One of which is the perfection of wisdom. And to be able to cultivate the perfection of wisdom, one has to study and train in train in dependent arising. So, for this motivation, we're going to engage in the studies of dependent arising. So that's the motivation I've set, and I'd encourage you to set a similar motivation for tonight, as well as for your own review of the teachings and the coming classes.
Dangbo Jeremchi, ane ya Lama Rangel Lama Dang, Chizun Jembe Anile, Ngo Yerme, Lama Sina Chizun Jembe, Jameson, Lama, Lama Dango, Yerme de Lea, ane Chizun Jembe Yale Chasero, Sikti Dire, Namo Guru, Manzugohaya Seachura.
Now we start with the text, and it starts with a homage that Geshe Rinpoche composed. And the Sanskrit is Namo Guru Manjugosha, and we have it in English. I pay homage to Lama Manjugosha. So here Lama Manjugosha refers to Geshe Rinpoche's Lama who he sees as indivisible from Manjushri or from Manjugosha. So Lama Manjugosha refers to his Lama or Lamas who he sees as indivisible from Manjushri.
And then
in Tibetan it's Lama Jampa Yang Chakselo.
Jeremchi Lama Jambe Yang La Chasula Malavaji, Maswaji, and then Namo Guru Manzu Gohaya Lago, Jumzen Gare Lamna, Chizan Namo Guru Manzu Gohaya says Sanskrit Tolia and Cha Chik Jabadi, Chizan Sanji Jumnen Digi, and Tabachin Biki Che, Soya Chazane, the Sanskrit Tony, Chizan Sanskrit said, Bemasigi, ane chike yagore chida mohobana ane Sanskrit tone sosanagi ane gedi yagoyagi cheda bachashayage dondala ane di basore Sanskrit tone ge tone ane chacho puya chachaware sore.
So just to say from an aside, the Tibetan will have both the Tibetan and the Sanskrit in its, hence Geshe said both. And so now now let's explain why Sanskrit, the homage was paid in Sanskrit by Geshe Rinpoche and not just in Tibetan. So the reason is the Mahayana Dharma was taught by Buddha Shakyamuni in the language of Sanskrit. So therefore it is seen as a particularly precious language. So by starting this text with the homage in Sanskrit, this is done so as to place an auspicious imprint on one's continuum, so that in the future one may come to know this language, this very language that the Buddha taught the precious Mahayana Dharma in.
Jinan Chasa de Chasawa, the San Jim de la Chasi, Masewaji, Chizun Jembe and La Chasalo Lautua, Chasedua, Digades, Damna, Chizun Mazuki, Godila Chasi, Udela, Dumba San Jim de la Chasalo, and Sevaina, Denji did in body, how to go there. Chizan that Chizun Jembe and La Chasi, Chasi with 6 day tone, or the Denji to 1 bit in the said how to go there. Chizan Dini in Zam. And Sanya da Janjusembala Chasalo Lava Chasawina, Denji and Dede Dene Bahu to go. Tiza Dene and Zam tended to but one bit Dene, Sumbin and one bit Dene Chagore, one bit Dene. Di Hagoya Dondala, Chizun Jemea La Chasalos, Chizan di Jeja Mangchim, one bit in di Jeja Delia, and then Taiwiko Mangasum Gorwa.
Den ik kon dan chik sapu komaso, den sangi chum den de chak selna, den di kari
Duidine.
Duwe.
Tamji Jembala Chasalos and the Chasalos, Lamna Duidine Bago to Gore.
You may well have a question here then. So this text, now we heard the long title a moment ago, it's a praise to Buddha Shakyamuni for having taught dependent arising. So if this text is called a praise to Buddha Shakyamuni, then why did the author of that text start with a praise to Manjushri? That may seem a little bit strange, but the praise surely should be to Buddha Shakyamuni. Well, the reason for this is that the homage at the beginning of a text serves several purposes. One of which is to show which classification this text belongs to. So there are three classifications, and it is indicated it's indicated by the object that the prostration is offered to in the homage at the beginning. So if a homage or a praise is offered to Manjushri, then we know it fits into the basket or the pitaka of the Abhidhamma. But on the other hand, if a praise was offered to Buddha, then it would have fallen into the classification of the basket or the pitaka of the Vinaya. So this text is not a text. This text that J. Rinpoche has composed, it's not to deal with the topic of the Vinaya or the monastic code, but rather it's to deal with wisdom or the Abhidhamma. Hence, the prostration is made to Manjushri to indicate to someone who doesn't know the text, just by reading the homage, that this text is to do with wisdom, in that it falls under the Abhidhamma Pitaka.
지난지 니마 버기 개보기 로자와서라 까당하래. 개보기 갈라서 로자와는 니마당 뭐 로자와 장가당 되네 상스키 야가견 수배기를 빼지 규고로와 규용도 안에 개보기 까당하래라나 경종 원배 되네 식수 규규여베나 안델야 당보들에 차들에 안에 가소래 지진 재매야라 차체고 그래서 네 뒤에 되네 규어이나 남바 탐지 캠발라 차살로는 상계라 차체고레스 다 되되되네 규유여베나 안에 상계다 자주sem발라 차살로는 상계다 주sem니발라 당보들 차지치고레스 디 제바이나 안에 땡주텔야 어디 원베데네레샤 디두이데네레샤 딘 되되데네레샤세 당보 차세 유디 로로연 하고 두부레스 제산디 제고르다 상계기 네 개부기 로자와서라 까다로와 지산 디니 인자 안딘 베기 갑레 안 베와주기 베지간에 좀이나 소수기 다 데네 쿵기 가래 좀이나 녀레 차지 유디라 안에 야네 디 제와리 김젠디리 해서 그러다.
This tradition started from the Tibetan king who sent the initial group of translators to India to study Sanskrit in order to translate texts from Sanskrit into Tibetan. So this king made the rule that because these texts were all being translated for the first time, many people would be, of course, reading them for the first time and would not know what the subject matter was. So through making it clear in the homage what the meaning of or the general meaning of the text is, then someone can just pick up a text and see that if the homage is to Manjushri, then it's part of the Abhidhamma Pitaka, so we know it's to do with wisdom. Or if it's a homage to the Buddha, or to put it in the proper name, a homage to the Omniscient One, then we know it's to do with Vinaya or the monastic code. Or thirdly, if the homage is to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, then we know that this text is to do with the sutras. So there was a king who initially sent the translators to India, and then those translators who translated the text from Sanskrit into Tibetan, they followed the king's law, or the king's rule, that they had to start with one of these three specific homages.
And that Jeremichigi, Nambo, that Tindibadi, Masonielia, Jimela, Chatsawar, water, Chatsagu, Goba, Gumsen Garelana, that Jizin Jambela, Rangi Lama, Jizin Jambe and Woyemedu, Th Della Debateju, Dj Chatsawa and Chatsawa Della Dine, and Denji de Ma Zomialia, and Ma Dendeba Zomiale, Barshemaya, and Dendidum Zumbi, Zumne, Tarchimbigi, and a Govacheva Gova Didungure, Didandala, and Chatsawa Regere.
So that then should be clear, the reason why the text starts with a homage to Lama or to Manjushri, Manjugosha, rather than to Buddha Shakyamuni or anyone else. And then, so, but why, or what's the point of, I'm still on? Yeah? Okay. So, but what's the point of a homage? Why are homages always at the start of a text? Yeah, am I still on? Maybe? Okay. Hard to hear? Okay. Okay. I'll wait for Andy to come. So I'll keep going, so Andy has something to work with. So the reason for having the homage at the start is that the reason for having the homage, maybe away from my mouth, the reason for having the homage at the start, it's not still this correctly, maybe down here, and it's below. Can you hear me okay now? Is that better? Okay, good. Okay. So the reason for having a homage is so that the Lama Tsongkhapa, who sees his Lama as indivisible or indistinguishable from Manjushri, through paying homage to them or to him at the start, this accumulates great virtue, and this virtue then is required so as to eliminate obstacles for the composition of this text, as well as for this text to be completed, the composition of this text to be completed. So for those two reasons, to eliminate obstacles to the composition, as well as for the composition to be completed, texts start with a homage. And similarly, in our cultures, we also have ways that are seen as culturally appropriate to greet people. And so this homage or a praise or a prostration that is offered at the time of encountering someone is the tradition or the custom of holy beings. So holy beings have this as a custom to greet with a homage or with a prostration or a salutation. Now we come to the first verse. So I'll read it in case someone didn't get one. I bow down to the unsurpassed teacher, whose supreme omniscience realized and taught the conquering dependence arising. So we have in our third line here the word realized. This word realized then refers to having realized dependence arising, which we then have mentioned in the fourth line. So the term realized here refers to having realized dependent rising, not just the coarse levels, but the subtle levels. And amongst the subtle levels, all the subtlest levels, so all the various levels of subtlety, the Buddha has realized, and not just realized, but realized directly. So that is what the term here realize refers to. It refers to having realized dependence arising and all levels of subtlety.
강아지 직신 하고샤 되는 송바이 시도 송바시도 안 저런기 되니게 소소게 된디게 남샤 자신 저와 차서 무슨 지바디 아니야 지금 두샬이야 제왕기 제와 두샤 semje 탐제 코와를 줘야 돼 semje 탐제래 대화단 디기 주비에게 don다라 semje래 제와체 제왕기 상기 결혼게는 야 된디게 남샤데 마노와 마추바체네 송샤스 결혼게 캠바나신 두신샹리야 마 송바레 지래.
Still in the third line, realized and taught. The taught here then refers to that Lord Buddha not only realized dependent arising, but he taught it. And here there's the hidden meaning behind this word taught, which would relate to his motivation. So with a motivation pervaded by the minds of love and of compassion for all sentient beings. So with this motivation of love and compassion for all sentient beings, wanting them to attain a state of lasting, uninterrupted happiness, the Buddha taught dependent arising. And his teaching of the dependent arising, based on his unmistaken realization, meant that the teaching too is unmistaken.
캠발라나 메바레스 캠발라나 메발라도 캠바 하고 간 덴디게 남샤 또바 데 캠발 안에 결혼을 야가지요 말 니수 켄켄 신경 결혼을 야가지요 말 근데 점리 나래 안에 출루 망보야 디나데 덴바 망보여 와다 지치르바 단 치르바 나래 치르바 망보여 와 디니기 덴캠 디니기 제바치가 망보여 이나야 결혼하신 켄투요 말레스 지난 덴디게 남샤 되게 지다와 신의 켄겐 결혼마도요 말. 제가 상이 결혼기 되는 남자 지다와 신의 켄바자 켄바디 라나메 바레스도 결혼기 하고야 돼. 약효들이 샤스 그러다 약효들이 샤스.
So now for our second line, referring here to supreme omniscience. So here J.M. Geshe is referring to the supreme wisdom or omniscience or exalted knowledge of the Buddha. And he's using this title, this term supreme, so as to show in this praise that in all the world there's no one whose wisdom or whose omniscience is higher than the Buddha's. The Buddha's omniscience or wisdom is developed to the fullest extent. And there's no being who has a omniscience or wisdom that is comparable to the Buddha.
잠지기 잠나 잠바다 제유 원게 샬리아 아니 마노와 마추바진은 송샤스 데네 송바인자 아니 결혼 빼 마시기 뜀바나네 뜀바 약쇼레 샤스.
Now what we have in our first line here, unsurpassed teacher. And J.M. Geshe here is referring to Buddha Shakyamuni as the unsurpassed teacher. And this is because due to his wisdom and his wisdom that has come about due to his realization of dependent arising, he is able to present this topic in an unsurpassed way because it's unmistaken. So therefore, there is no teacher who's comparable to the Buddha, let alone a teacher who surpasses the Buddha. So, therefore, the Buddha is referred to as the unsurpassed teacher, because of the quality of his realization and the teachings that came from that.
윤된 최초 결혼을 해샤. 근데 윤된 전문은 순간에 결혼을 해샤스. 비자 땜바 순간에 결혼 약속을 하셔서 가시 연된 지부이네 현래 라마라바지 아니 지말라바 잠제메나 현래 라고 말해서 소소 연된 지부이네 마 차상 말랍샤바인 콘제 야고 신지 지는 아지라 신메와 차 콘제 리름으로다 소소 연된 강시바 차상 라고 오 거의 차상 신체 고께라 침버정 소소나 깨다 중조라 선비게 드네게 삼노산에 연된 강신바 현래 말라바 용거로 봐 연된 소소라나 강신바주와 차상 말랍샤바이나 먹이디 야고 차 신선한 소소 고즈께라 침버자 소소께라 메와 차기로 와서 뭐라 다 소소 지구 신년제 현나디게 싫어 신면은 소다께라 침버질 하기로 하게 되나 그러와 디나신 아니 가시게 연된 신부 있나 아니 현리야 잠바단 제와 메반 메나 현리 라고 말했어 신말로 말라고 말왔어 결혼기 강신바디 현리야 라고도 말마 땡도 디 가르치는 결혼을 현리야 제와든 잠바든 제와 여바자 현리야 땡도 왔어 제가 결혼 땡겐 나는 최순간에 약속 결혼을 샤 다 최기 돈에 롭존 돈에 시인단에 약속 결혼을 샤 제가 땡발라나 메바 켐발라나 메바 라나 메바레스 제가 디레스 월다 되바디다 배 약속 결혼을 샤 되바디로 와다 되바에 배마서 약속 결혼을 샤 가래 약속을 샤스는 최순간 나네 유순간 약속 땡바 결혼 약속을 샤스 되네 안에 시지 윤된 캔네 약속 캔겐의 결혼을 샤스 되바디 부고로 와다.
So, what we've been looking at here then is that the Buddha is being praised for his qualities. So we could say that amongst all the educated beings, the Buddha is by far supreme. But Geshe Rinpoche is not just leaving this as a mere bland statement, but he's presenting some reasons. So this topic of dependent arising is a topic that the Buddha has come to know directly through realization, and not just on a coarse level, but at the subtlest levels, and not just intellectually, but realized. And then he didn't just keep that information to himself. With this motivation of love and compassion for all sentient beings without exception, he shared his knowledge, he shared his realizations with all beings. And he wasn't like an ordinary educated person who may think about, well, if I share all my knowledge, then others may develop skills greater than me. Others may become more famous, more renowned than I am, and then I'll actually end up losing out. So I should keep back some key points to myself. The Buddha didn't do that. The Buddha shared the entire path, the entire method to attain the exact same realization as he did. The Buddha taught the entire method to develop oneself to the fullest of the most complete capacity. So for this reason then, the Buddha is also praised not just for his supreme wisdom or supreme omniscience, but also for being an unsurpassed teacher, because of teaching in an unmistaken manner and doing so with a motivation of love and compassion.
지나다 캠바이 시 약속 결혼을 시 인비 김자가선 결혼에 땡데 남자하고 켄샤시고로 와다. 지난 땡데게 남자하고 켄난 땡데서 내가 느슬고 간스티레서 내가 주다 제바제바이나 땡데들라 땡데 라바단 참모멍 보여로 와. 땡데 랍나가는 주 디스로 제보도 마선나 규치라 땡네 제보 주와. 땡데들라 윤티기 땡데서야다. 땡네 답에 땡데서 땡네 니용고로 대선 마선나 이차고로 윤티기 땡데 땡네 답에 땡데서 대선 이차고로 와.
So thus far, we've heard about dependent arising a fair amount. You came in, you saw the title of the text, and you've seen it now here in this first verse. So let's talk a little bit about dependent arising. So we've already heard thus far that there are many levels of subtlety to dependent arising. But if we were to divide it in a way that's just simple and clear, we can divide it into two. So we can say that there's one that is where from a cause follows a result. So there's a relationship of cause and effect, or cause and result. So that is a dependency, a dependent arising. And that's the first type. And the second one is that of an imputation, or a relationship based on that because one thing exists, therefore there is something else. So the one depends on the other. So that would be the second type. The first is one of a causal relationship, from a cause follows a result. And the second is one of, because there is one, there is the other. So there's a dependency between the one and the other.
당도 윤직이 된데 라면도 변행한도 사번로식 변에 마살마타와이나 델레 뉴구지 사번 델레티는 뉴구지 뉴구디 야야야 체르친제데네 메도샤 메도 델레티네 안 지부미 어디서 윤직이 된데 락바락바디기로 락바세.
As we've said now many times, there are these different levels of subtlety. So we'll start with one that's very easy to understand. When we think of the first type, the dependent on causes and conditions. So that's the first type, dependent on causes and conditions. So we can think of a seed being a cause leading to the result of a seedling. So from a seed comes a seedling, or from a seed eventually comes a flower. So cause and result. This is an easy illustration of dependency, dependent on causes and conditions.
디니기 릭디텐제 rakpache 안 저기 안 아말에 되네 부고기 단 부고디게 야처처차 양부부레 즉 델레테네 양 부고 미게 되네 차데 저장도 샘제 둔로에 나미 나데도 제네 안에 지키 깨요 바디 안 저기 통고로 바디 텐제디 귤레 되네 아마치레 되네 안 부고게야다 사본치레 되네 제부게요 바디 대소 찍찍레 되네 가선 사본디 메나 제부디 하야 말와 지상 사본 매완자 매래 지상 데니기 텐디기 남샤디 텐데 락베 남샤디 안 저기 통수수기 방아서 하고 그러다.
If you want another easy to understand illustration, you think of how we came into this world. So we were once infants, and we came into this world based on the cause of being given birth to by our mothers. And this is something that happened to us, happened to all living beings, all animals and humans. So this is a relationship of cause and effect, where in dependence on the cause of having been given birth, there was a child who could then, or an infant who could then grow. So this is something we all know and we have observed in the world. And so this kind of dependency is where one thing is dependent on another, where one thing is dependent on another. What this then means is, if there is no cause, there will be no result. For there to be a result, there needs to be a cause.
안디나진다 델레도 된데 차와라 삼당에는 차와 삼당에도 나 저기 셈바 상보 제바이나 아니 소설이야 디기 용하다 샹래야 디기 줍투야다 소설이야는 공도 셈바 상보 제바는 델레티니 안 디기 줍투고 디기 용고로 자 소설이야는 지 공도 사다 아니 제니기 공도 제바이는 공도 델레티니 안 소설을 동아요야 샹래야 강아체야 아니 데니기 아니 디나신 소설기 지게 차바차베 원기 샹리아 강아데 라나가 동아요야 제가 데니게 삼로 땅탕이 토네 삼로 땅초 토네 삼로 야가지 상부시 삼다와나 라신이가를 디기 주투야다 삼라 데 녀몽 온도 되샤 콘돌라서 베게와이나 디원게 라신이가를 동아용을 봐 대세 전부 중앙에서 그 할음카 하고 두고 봐대 콘라나 소소 콘라사데 키우메 바다네 메바 차야데 하고 두고 봐다
So just take it to a slightly less coarse level, but one that's still easy to understand. Is if we want to be happy, we also want those around us to be happy. That is something that is independent on causes such as being a kind-hearted person, being a good person. And similarly, if our mind is angry, then in dependence on this mind of anger, clearly we are not happy at that time. And all those that we encounter, dominated by this mind of anger, we're likely to bring unhappiness to them as well. So here we can see that from virtuous minds such as love and compassion, then with that as a cause, then a result of happiness for oneself and for others will follow. But from afflicted minds, such as desirous attachment or ignorance or anger, then suffering comes for oneself, as well as unhappiness for others. So in this way, we can see this relationship of dependency, or this dependence of cause and effect, in relation that from a particular mind comes an experience of either happiness or suffering. So this is also something we all have experience of, and we also understand easily.
ngobodi ge ya yudan genji le döne ge hudo yudan genji le ma döne ge ya marwa 지금 매번 게들이 유대 gen지를 되는 게 고바 나신 매바 차야 돼야 유대 gen지를 되는 매바 차고도 유대 gen지를 맞는 매바 차야 매대 근데 자로 치스선에 매대 되는 치는 매바 차고 야는 지기 gen지를 되는 매바 차고로 지산 자디게 치 매라 되는 매바요도 치르고로 와 부시파야르즈는 디나지로 뭐 치르고로 와 제가 디나심 그 매바 차바데 유대 gen지 뭐버디기 매바 차야 될 유대 gen지를 되는 매바 차고 디네 인자 나주규라 람 셈바 상보 자주 셈나 동요도베 셔럽세야디게 야야도 찌게라 곰지 곰 냠는 제제 냠는 제 곰지는 찌 딜레드네 야야 주고 그래 진짜 나주규라 되차 공조 나야 셈 랑제 니가라 강아제 뇨모비릭 셈디양 유단 gen지를 되는 매바 수요고마도 그 유단 gen지를 마되는 거 매바 수요야 매래 세상 유단 gen간에 찔을 되는 매바 수요고를 남나 대가서 콘로디게 내가 가야를 수고 겁나 콘로디게 가투야다 잠제제나 내 콘로 가투야라서 받는 거로 세상 디니 인자 그 뇨모바게 디게 간스키도 콘 되차기도 콘로 가서 강아지에 되차 콘로게도 가서 라진이가라 강아지거도 디스나다 되샤당 콘로 녀몽발레 때네 나즈를 강아 찌기나 녀몽바다 되샤 코로 간스키고레스디 다제 마릭 받을 때 기기도스 제가 자유규데 다제 마릭 바레샤스 제가 다제 마릭 받에 매바서야라 되샤다 콘로 매바서야라 디유 다제 마릭 받에 매바서고레스 제가 다제 마릭 받에 매바 간스고레 람나 다 제바제 다음에 또베 다음에 봐 또베 동유도베 셰랍디 귤레케나 매바수 두고 그래. 지난 데니기 땡땡 남샤 되게 디 아니 아주기 균디기 땡땡 남자 사차고 와.
So then to look further at this presentation on dependency on causes and conditions. So if we want to develop a kind heart and inner qualities, we need to understand how to do so, how to develop these qualities within ourselves so that they grow. Likewise, if we want to eliminate the afflicted minds that cause us pain and suffering, then we need to understand what to eliminate, how to eliminate these. So this is all also included in the type of dependency that is dependent on causes and conditions. So earlier we spoke about the two types, and we're still looking at the first, the dependency on causes and conditions. Because something that is dependent on causes and conditions, what this means is that if one either wants a particular result or doesn't want a particular result, that is dependent on the causes being accumulated or eliminated. So if one wants a particular result, the causes for that have to be accumulated. If one doesn't want a particular result, one doesn't want to experience something, those causes then must not be accumulated. So for example, we hearing really far too often in the news about bushfires. So bushfires, of course, these come in dependence on causes. If there's nothing to burn, no bushfire. If there's no fire, no bushfire. So you need fire, you need dry grass, dry trees, etc. A variety of causes to come together, and the result will come. So that is a very easy example again to understand. But where it's important for us is in terms of the application of our minds, our inner world, and in terms of the happiness we want to experience, the suffering we don't want to experience. So furthermore, if we want to experience happiness, then we need to cultivate minds such as love and compassion and wisdom realizing emptiness. But the mere wish for that result will not bring about the result. Why? Because this is a dependent arising, and the dependent arising that is dependent on causes and conditions. So if we want the result, to develop the mind of love within us, or the mind of compassion, or the mind that is the wisdom realizing emptiness, we have to develop those causes. And those causes come about through practice, in other words, through studying and meditating. On the converse, we also don't want to suffer. And if we want to eliminate this result that is suffering, any kind of unwanted mental pain, mental anguish, physical suffering, we have to identify the causes. And so let's look at those causes then of our suffering are afflicted minds. So for example, we mentioned the mind of attachment. If the mind of attachment and the mind of anger. When these are ripen, when we have these present, we experience suffering. So attachment and anger are the cause of suffering. But those minds of attachment and anger, they also have a cause. And they have a cause of ignorance of self-grasping. So this then is what we need to eliminate. So we see here the result of suffering comes from a coarser cause, such as an afflicted mind, such as anger and attachment, which comes from a subtler cause of ignorance and grasping. So there's this relationship of dependency. Likewise, to eliminate this cause of suffering, this ignorance of self-grasping, so that if to eliminate that, that's the goal, to eliminate that, we need to accumulate this causes to eliminate that. So again, then here too is a relationship of dependency. And how do you eliminate the causes of suffering, this ignorance of self-grasping? It's through using our analytical mind, based on study, investigate, and develop the mind that is the wisdom realizing emptiness. So the cause for eliminating the ignorance of self-grasping is the wisdom realizing emptiness. So again here, we see a relationship of cause and effect, a dependence arising of cause and effect. So this then is a subtler presentation, and a presentation of particular use for dependency on causes and conditions.
Nuki chode mena shar choksa chaya yomarwa. Chisan shar choda nubjo yindi jik tigu mare de ine shar choksa di nub chola tuyene ane shar chok chabare. Nub choksa di shar chokla tuyene nub chok chabarwa. Chisan dini yinzan pe diro boda ko yunde mayin jik la tuyene chabwa yinzan ane deso shar choda nubjo yindi tene tabi tene kon yunde mare ine tene tabi jik la tene nub chok shar chok. So
some minutes ago we mentioned there are many levels of subtlety of dependent arising, but we can divide dependent arising into two. The first was where one thing is dependent on the other in terms of a relationship of cause and effect. So we've spoken about that now for some minutes. And now let's look at the second type. And that is where one thing is dependent on another. So if one thing is dependent on the other, you need the one for there to be the other. So if an illustration would be, for example, in terms of direction. So east is dependent on west. If there is no west, there is no east. And conversely, if there is no east, there is no west. These are dependent on each other. So this is the second type of dependency. The one is dependent on the other. The first was of cause and effect.
Dina jirwa de di chembure di chungchure sia da ane chembu da chungchu sia de dine ko chungchu de la dine an di chenpo re sha sta go wa chenpo de la tene di chung re sha sta go ni chung na chenpo ni di yun re ma di chi le tene chung wa de la tue ne ne ko chenpo cha so de 지난 전부 될라 때는 거 중화 차서래. 그러나 지금도 매내고 전부를 중화를 라야 말마대로 디나신 링부세다 통동세다. 안에 즉 차상 통동 될라 때는 거 링부 차바래. 링부를 때네. 저 링부 될라 때는 거 통동 차바래. 차상 디르와다. 때네 답을 된지 사샤고 그 윤제 마이나 전부래 충충래 사다. 디링부래 디안 통동래서 링다 링와다 통화 ane di toboresha, di moboresha sayada, ane di nyingchiboresha, di nyingchibo membaresha sayada, di su chasa tene tabe tene.
So the second type of dependency, so the first was dependency on cause and effect. The second type, to understand it more clearly, think of it as dependency on imputation, or dependent on imputation. So we need to, for east and west to exist, we need to impute on a direction east for there to be west. And this, of course, relates to big and small. There can only be something small if we've imputed big onto something else. So if we don't have anything that's big, we're not going to have small. Likewise with short and with long, with beautiful, with ugly, with all these kinds of perhaps opposites, there is a reliance or a dependency on imputation, where you need to have an imputation on the one in order for there to be the other. So the illustrations that are easy to understand would be east and west, big and small, short and long, beautiful and ugly. So for there to be one, there has to be the other. So this is a relationship of dependency on imputation.
다 텐제 시디 다 저기 녀몽바디게 차상 저기 동아다 강아 체 차상 가르레 띠네 연구를 유 레다 녀몽발레 띠네 연구를 해서 유 나즈레 동아다 강아 망무스리게로와 대셔스 베네 가위엔 가와다 나와다 치와다 디네 동아 망고 강아야디 유 가르레 띠네 리거든 레다 녀몽발 띠네 연구를 해서 제가 레다 녀몽바디야 가르레 띠네 연구선 다제 마릭발레 띠네 연구를 해서 디 용타디 상기기 캠바레셔와 다나 디조 강한 세기 될야 탑시에 가르 공부를 람나 제상아 저기 강한 세야를 주 레다 녀몽바디 매바스요 고고레스 제다 녀몽바디 아니 매바스요라 디 가르티네 용선 다지 마릭바디 디고레 제가 다지 마릭바디 매바스요 고고레스 다지 마릭바 매바스요나 아니 가니스 매바스요 고레 람나 동유 도비게 셰럽게 용도 동반이 또 용도 다시 말이 벌는 그래서 제가 다신 동유 도비 셰럽디 검제 다시 말이 밤에 봐서요 그래서 제가 동유 도비 셰럽 검지 다시 말이 빵도 그래 다시 말이 밤에 봐서요도 되네 녀모바 되자시다 디모 녀모바디 가도 그래 디 가도도 되네 가소데 맞아 그 동하다 좋아요 말해서
Dante kennen die Chiki Kolason, die Gyula Tene
ma de dunga di yakare tin liosen le da nyomon bal tin li ko le da nyomon ba de dasi mari bal tin li ko chesa de ti me ba so ala le da nyomon ba me ba so di gyu dasi mari ba me ba so de dasi mari ba me ba kan so ko re ne tonyin to be sharap kom che ani dasi me ba so ko re esa.
Let's just talk a little bit again then about the first type, the dependency on dependence arising on causes and conditions. That first type. So where this is of particular importance to us is that none of us wants to experience suffering. We all want to be freed of all forms of problems and just experience lasting, uninterrupted happiness. So to do this, we need to understand dependent arising, because through understanding dependent arising, we'll see that this unwanted result of suffering comes from causes. So we then need to embark on investigating those causes, and those causes, as we've learned previously, are contaminated karma and afflictions. So the cause is contaminated karma and afflicted minds, which leads to the result of suffering. And those causes, they themselves, these afflicted minds our afflicted minds, say anger, attachment, jealousy, pride, these too have causes. So in this way, we would say the result of attachment or the result of anger comes from a cause, and that cause is the ignorance of self-grasping. So here what we're seeing is Buddha Shakyamuni praised for having taught this. And not just taught it from a point of intellectual knowledge, but through having realized it, and realized it completely and directly. And he also taught, and he taught it on a deeper level too. So he didn't just teach the process of cause and effect that leads to our suffering, but also how through this understanding of dependence arising, this dependency on causes and conditions, we can eliminate our suffering. Is if we then say the ignorance of self-grasping, which is the root cause of all suffering, how to eliminate that? So to eliminate that, we need to develop a cause which will eliminate that. And so the elimination of suffering, the elimination of ignorance would be the result, and the cause would be developing the mind that is the wisdom realizing emptiness. So the cause of the wisdom realizing emptiness leads to the result of eliminating ignorance of self-grasping. So here again we see this relationship of dependency. But merely wishing for the mind that is the wisdom realizing emptiness will not lead to us having it. For that, we also need to develop causes. So here we then would change and say the wisdom realizing emptiness, that's the result we want to achieve, so we need to develop the causes. The causes are meditation based on its own cause of study, of the acquiring of knowledge. So this is what Buddha Shakyamuni taught, this unique teaching of dependence arising. Here we're looking at it in terms of the first division again, dependency on causes and conditions.
That doesn't matter, but the Tonyo Tobio shed of Comche and then Meva Soko Guena doesn't matter, but said Ganeshi Lagudu said Dambomoso Adila Carsosina. Penazula Na said sometimes the Gansa, sometimes Na said Nazula Nayo do Rashing Juba, Demotuba Nango, actually. Demotuba Nangla do Nazul Gansa, I'll do some the Gansa said the Nahas Ganesh to some Lolia sharing do. Kudan Jen Kalaya Matuba, Ranguni, Druptuba Nangore. Kalaya Matu, Ranguni, Druptuba Nawa Nashin, or did some Zingen Dilla, Gansa doesn't Maripa water, doesn't Maripa city word. Nazula Gansa, now the Gansa di Kudan Jen, Chasha Kalaya Matu, Korongwini, Druptuba Nangore. Nawa Nashin didu some Gandilla, doesn't Maripa word. And that Nanzo Yomoki, you saw the Maripa did it.
Den kunde det yankla I det tamade det
marikbas
det temperatur yamen rangsin ki
joba rangsin tu chikba temper thank you bulula temperatur rangsin tu chikba.
So we've just heard now, wanting to be free of suffering and experience only happiness, we need to eliminate the cause of the suffering through the cause of the suffering, the ignorance of self-grasping. So if the desired result is the elimination of the ignorance of self-grasping, we need to develop a cause, which is the wisdom realizing emptiness. So that is the process of dependency here. But in order to do this, to have this wish to fulfill this wish, to eliminate the ignorance of self-grasping, in order to do that, merely having a wish to eliminate something is insufficient. We need to understand what the ignorance of self-grasping is, what is meant by this. So, what is meant by the ignorance of self-grasping is how the I or the self appears to us. This is what we need to come to understand. If we investigate how the I appears to us, the way it appears to us is as being inherently existent or self-existent or truly existent. So what does that term mean? So we'll hear this a lot. The I or the self appears to be inherently existent or truly existent. So this means that it appears as if it is not dependent on causes and conditions. It's independent of causes and conditions. It's independent of parts. It's not dependent on anything outside of itself. It appears to be self-existent. So that is the meaning of the of self-grasping, the ignorance of self-grasping. So this is a mind of ignorance that grasps at the self as existing in the way that it appears. How does it appear? As inherently existent or self-existent. And that means not dependent on causes, conditions or parts or anything at all. It appears to be self-existent. So we've just mentioned then how the I appears. It appears to be inherently existent, and what that means, that it appears to be self-existent, not dependent on anything at all, but self-existent or inherently existent, or its own nature. So I think you have a little sheet of paper with all of these synonyms. So that's how the I appears to us. And then our mind of ignorance grasps at this mind as existing in this way that it appears, and this is the ignorance of self-grasping, or it can be called the ignorance of true grasping, but in this situation, more correctly, is ignorance of self-grasping, but it would be the same. Then, so that's the cause of all our suffering. Then, when we come to realize that the self that appears to be inherently existent is empty of existing inherently, that is when we realize emptiness. So what is emptiness? It's understanding. So what is the emptiness of realizing the emptiness of the self? That the self is empty of existing in the way that it appears. It's empty of existing as self-existent, as truly existent, as inherently existent. And again, just to use some of these synonyms, because for some people, some words are better than others. So instead of saying emptiness, we can say voidness, or maybe voidness is a better one. So the self is void or empty of existing inherently, of being self-existent. And so that is the realization of emptiness. And the mind that realizes emptiness is called the wisdom realizing emptiness. So when you hear the term wisdom realizing emptiness, wisdom is the mind. What is it realizing? Emptiness. What is emptiness? It means that the object, in this case the self, does not exist inherently or is not self-existent. It is empty of being self-existent, empty of being inherently existent. And here we talk about, in this process, two minds: ignorance of self-grasping and the wisdom realizing emptiness. These minds are contradictory. They cannot exist together. So when we realize emptiness directly, the ignorance of self-grasping is eliminated.
boss thing so I not was. That in corner the corner some corner the Nama. Do Jen and I said on to you Pungu and Nang Timmy Pungu do Jen and Kana, one year, near meeting, don't ask him about it. Don't ask about the Jebachi, don't say about the year. The nigger don't sound there, and the Narashima was. The nigger really go me on to Ma said, you know, Jen, come and what you were wrong when you do it, made you a door, but digger so that don't you talk about it.
The Gyudan Kende call the youngest one. And then let's, in the time remaining, let's look at how then one can meditate on emptiness through using the understanding of dependence arising. So first we start with, as we heard, with how the I appears. We need to try and come to see for ourselves how the I appears. So the I or the self, how it appears. And we should come to when we get a feeling for how our I appears, we should see that it appears as being something that's not dependent on anything else, but appears to be independent. So now we need to look for that I, that appears to be independent, that appears to exist, to be self-existent. And if it exists in this way, we should find it. So if it exists in this way, it's going to be in one of two places, either somewhere away from us, or here, where we are. And of course it's here, it's not out there in the trees. And if it's here with us, it can only be in one of two places. In our body, or our physical aggregate, or in our minds, or our mental aggregates. So we can look first in the body, and it's clear our sense of self doesn't abide in any single body part, nor in the collection. Then what about the minds? So if we look at single minds, such as the mind of anger, that's not the self, because if it were, if the self-existent self were the mind of anger, for example, it would always be angry. And luckily that's not the case. Nor, unfortunately, it's the mind of happiness, because we are not always happy. So in this way, we can investigate the minds individually, also collectively, and see that the self-existent I, or this inherently existent I, doesn't exist in our body or in our minds. This then leads us to an understanding of emptiness. We come to understand that the I is empty of existing in the way that it appears. It's empty of existing inherently, empty of being self-existent. And the mind that comes to this understanding is the wisdom understanding emptiness. And so we come to this understanding through the wisdom understanding emptiness, that the I does not exist independent of causes and conditions, independent of parts. It doesn't exist, it's not self-existent or inherently existent. And we continue our meditation. So the point we've come to here is that we've come to an understanding of emptiness, seeing that the I is empty of existing in the way that it appears. It's empty of being truly existent or inherently existent. It is not independent of causes and conditions or parts or anything other than itself. So then the next part of the meditation is, does the I then not exist at all? Because we've come to a realization or an understanding of emptiness. So does the I not exist at all? Do I not exist at all? So of course we can say that the I exists. But what we've seen is when we investigate and research, as we've done in these preceding stages, we don't find the I, but we come to an understanding of emptiness. But when we don't investigate, sure, there's an I that's meditating. There's an I that's come to understand emptiness. This I then, this I that we can say it exists as a dependent arising. And what of those two types of dependent arising? Now we talk about the second type, that dependence on imputation. So the I exists as dependent on imputation by mind. So if we investigate, we can't find this I that appears to exist inherently, but we see the I is empty of inherent existence. We realize emptiness. But if we don't exist, there is an I that we can talk about. And so this I exists as a mere imputation by mind. Now concluding the verse, it's a little difficult, so I'll just read the whole verse, because in this first verse the Tibetan and the English are mixed in the translation. So now again let's read the last two lines in the Tibetan, but it's mixed for us. I bow down to the unsurpassed teacher whose supreme omniscience realized and taught the conquering dependence arising. So what Geshe Rinpoche is saying here is that it's only the Buddha who has taught dependence arising, and taught it in a way that is unmistaken and that is completely unmistaken. So having realized dependence arising and taught it masterfully, for these qualities I prostrate to you. The meaning, in brief then, of this verse is that Geshe Rinpoche is offering praise to the Buddha, because it was the Buddha who came to understand and realize directly all the levels of subtlety of dependence arising. And he didn't leave it at that, but he taught this to others, and he taught it to others completely. And he taught it to others in a way so that others can come to develop this knowledge within themselves and come to realize emptiness directly. So he did this because all sentient beings, who the Buddha once was just like, have the wish for happiness and to be freed from suffering. And to truly achieve this, the Buddha taught how to, firstly, what the causes of our suffering are, the afflicted minds, such as anger and attachment, and in particular the root of all of these afflicted minds, the ignorance of self-grasping. And together with this, he also taught the antidote to this ignorance of self-grasping, namely the wisdom that realizes emptiness. He taught the entire method for cultivating this understanding of emptiness within oneself, and thereby being able to eliminate suffering. So the Buddha did this because when he came to realize emptiness and dependence arising, he eliminated all his problems. He was completely freed from suffering and had developed all good qualities. But he didn't just sit back and say, I've done the hard work, now I get to enjoy it. Rather, with this motivation of love and compassion, he shared with his students how to develop these minds within themselves. And he shared them the complete method in an unmistaken manner. And so it's for these reasons that Je Rinpoche is praising Buddha Shakyamuni. We started then tonight to look at this text of praise for dependence arising. One of the key thing that we've seen tonight and that we'll continue to develop on is that all of us want to experience only happiness and to be freed of suffering. This is not something unique to me. It's not something just shared with those in the room, but that is something common to all living beings. And so here, through this process of dependence arising, what we've heard tonight, the key points to take and to think about now, is where does our unwanted suffering come from? If we call the unwanted suffering a result, we know that from this dependency on cause and effect, this effect or this result comes from a cause, and that cause is afflicted minds. And then if we look, say, our afflicted minds, such as anger, if that is a result, then that too came from a cause. What was that cause? And that was the ignorance of self-grasping. So in this way, we can use this understanding of dependence arising to see this process that leads to all our unwanted unhappiness. Then on the other hand, our wanted happiness. So if that's a result, what does that come from? So that comes from causes such as wisdom and love and compassion. So this is what we can take away from here, what we can take away from tonight's class, how we can think about dependence arising, in terms of how we can accumulate what causes and how to accumulate these causes for our desired happiness and to eliminate our unwanted suffering. And to conjoin this then with a wish to engage in this process not just for our own betterment, but in order to be able to lead all things to a state of unsurpassed happiness. Okay. So then thank you. And then we'll finish here and we'll continue with the text tomorrow. Thank you.